everyone, John from roarnomore.com, and I want to share with you a book that, I think I wouldn't put this on the essential books that every college student must read while in college or before going, but I would put this on intriguing, entertaining, enlightening, and useful reading information for a student entering the college environment. And the reason I say that is because this particular book deals with communism from an angle that I don't know that any other book actually deals with it. It's called Marx and Satan. It's by Richard Wurmbrand. And Richard Wurmbrand's an amazing guy. He was a pastor in Romania, got thrown into prison, and he just went through some horrible things, beatings and so forth. And really, he has an outlook on communism that is unique, because none of us have been tortured in the way that he was tortured and experienced the things he's experienced. He founded an organization called Jesus to the Communist World as a result of his experiences, and also I believe he was either the co-founder or the founder of Voice of the Martyrs, which is just a great website, and you can, I'm going to have that website posted right below in the status bar, so go make sure you check that out. It's a great website. They got a great magazine they put out, and actually they sent me this book for free. I didn't even pay for it when I signed up to get their magazine. So what this book is about, though, is about the connection between Marxism and Satanism. And you're thinking, well, what connection? And that's exactly what I thought the first time that I heard about this book. My brother actually read it and said it was really good, and I was actually a little bit skeptical. I argued with him a little bit and said, hey, Marxism, that's atheism, not Satanism. And am I thoroughly convinced that Marx was a Satanist? I have to say not 100%. I am probably, the book definitely raised a lot of questions in my mind, and I'm probably a good 70% sure, maybe more than that, 75% sure that he was in fact involved in Satanism directly. We all know, hopefully, that he was involved in it indirectly, just because his ideas were so anti-Christian, and you're either a child of God or the child of the devil, as the Bible says. And even if he wasn't consciously aware of his service to Satan, he certainly was serving Satan's purpose. Now, the book, though, goes into more detail about connections, or possible connections. Both of them are in here, between Marx and Satan. And it's not just Marx. It talks about Stalin, it talks about Lenin, it talks about a bunch of Pol Pot, I believe, is in here, and Mao Zedong, and some of the African and South American communist leaders, and just the spiritual things that went on. And actually it talks about Hitler as well, because really Hitler is very connected with communism. National Socialism is very similar. But you might be asking, well, okay, John, we understand what you're saying. Cut through the chase. Give me some arguments for why Marx might be a Satanist. Well, I could do that, and I'm not going to give this, obviously I don't have time to give this the full treatment that Richard Wurmbrand does. But there's definitely some suspicious things in his writings. November 10th, 1837, he writes to his father, "A curtain has fallen, my holy of holies was rent asunder, and new gods had to be installed." He's referring there to his Christian faith as a child, false Christian faith, obviously, but he changed that faith. Okay, that doesn't prove he's a Satanist, I know, but it just proves that he was not a Christian. Some other statements that he makes, his poetry is just rife with interesting things. Here's another thing he says. Eternity. She is our eternal grief, an indescribable and immeasurable death. Vile artificiality conceived to scorn us, ourselves being clockwork, blindly mechanical, made to be the full calendars of time and space, having no purpose, save to happen, to be ruined, so that there shall be something to ruin. Man, you see this. He hates every culture. He just despises the planet. He despises his own works, which I thought there's self-hatred. He just has a hatred for everything, and it's like a different level of evil. It's like a level of darkness, which is just incredible. Some of his writings I just find just so dark that they themselves would be compelling enough to actually cast some suspicion onto whether he was involved with occult practices. Here's something interesting. I thought his daughter married a Satanist. This is some of the writings of a man by the name of Edward Eveling, who married Eleanor, Marx's daughter. He says, "To thee my verses, unbridled and daring, shall mount, O Satan, king of the banquet, away with thy sprinkling, O priest, and thy droning, for never shall Satan, O priest, stand behind thee." And he goes on and on and on, and it's pretty bad. What kind of a father would let his daughter marry someone who was a Satanist? Here's something extremely revealing. His housemate, after he dies, says that he was a God-fearing man. Karl Marx, right? God-fearing man. When he was very sick, he prayed alone in his room before a row of lighted candles, trying a sort of tape measure around his forehead. We find that Marx, he didn't practice the Jewish religion, and this actually isn't even in the Jewish religion, although Marx was a Jew. This isn't a Christian ceremony. This is actually an occult, satanic ceremony. We find that Marx wrote, "In the signs that bewilder the middle class, the aristocracy, and the prophets of regression, we recognize our brave friend Robin Goodfellow, the old mole that can work in the earth so fast, the revolution." Who's Robin Goodfellow? Good question. Robin Goodfellow is basically the devil. In the 16th century, the evangelist William Tyndale used that name as a name for the devil. Shakespeare, in Midsummer's Night's Dream, called him the knavish spirit that misleads night wanderers, laughing at their harm. So there's another possible connection there. There was actually a priestess, Joanna Southcott, and Marx copies the way that she expects her followers to wear their beards. And it's ironic that Mark actually has a number of friends. Actually remind me a little bit of Barack Obama. Remember during the elections he had all these friends. He's friends with terrorists, he's friends with communists, blah blah blah. Well, Marx is friends with a number of Satanists. And even if he was not one himself, certainly the association makes one raise an eyebrow and think, well, why was he hanging out with these guys? So this book should basically give you a new outlook on the communist worldview and Karl Marx himself, not to mention Joseph Stalin and some of the other figures we just talked about. The book is not, it's actually a very short book. It's probably 133 pages. You can see how thin it is. But it does make a rather compelling case in those 133 pages. I wouldn't say a case that's bulletproof, but I would say a very compelling one to show that there is a spiritual battle. And I think that's really the takeaway from this book, is that there is a spiritual battle going on, and sometimes it is hidden from us. We don't understand why people do certain things, why the deaths that happened around Stalin and so forth. And this book really makes sense of it. It is a spiritual war. And as Christians, we need to be aware that there's a spiritual war going on around us. Things don't just break down into economic, scientific, materialistic, motivations. People just aren't trying to go out and get rich, and that's why wars happen. There's more to it than that. So, that isn't motivation much of the time, but there are demons and angels and spiritual forces at work in this world, and that's really what this book gets you to realize. So I'm not going to obviously give the whole book away because I want you to read it. So go to the link below to the website. There's a link on my website for you to get this book at a reasonable price, and I hope you enjoy it. It's a great read.